Hello, and welcome to workshop number 6 of the Josiah Media Festival 2020. It's been a great adventure providing this content to you young filmmakers out there in schools and in your homes. Today's workshop is another exciting presentation by Adam Dusenbury with his White Cloud drone system, and he's going to be doing a workshop presentation titled A Day in the Life of a Drone. We also have a very practical workshop from Dago Patlan, a filmmaker from here in San Antonio, and very much a part of the youth media movement, having been a high school teacher for many, many years at the Film School of San Antonio, Harlandale High School. Dagoberto will be presenting simple 2- and 3-point lighting for interviews. So welcome to workshop number 6 of the Josiah Media Festival 2020. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Adam Dusenbury, and I am the CEO and Creative Director at White Cloud. Here at White Cloud, we provide media production services, aerial video and photo, and drone technology products. We also provide a short list of drone commercial services such as inspections and surveying. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you a day in the life of what our company experiences throughout the week. Hopefully this will give you an opportunity to see what a company like ours is doing in an industry that literally just started a few years ago. But first, I'd like to share with you how I started this business and how we're thriving today. Drones, or UAVs, came on the market around 2010. This technology has been around for years, but it wasn't affordable for the regular public until that time. That's about the time that I got into photography and videography. I was shooting weddings and events and various other types of content for social media and websites. When drones came around, I quickly needed one to expand my creative curiosity. The opportunity to fly a camera and get a perspective that has not really been tapped before was something that I saw as an advantage and also as a business model. So I started taking videos and photos of downtown San Antonio and some other surrounding areas to document the construction and the ever-growing expansion of our life in this city. In 2015, the FAA enforced a certification process that you must have in order to fly the drone legally for a business purpose. In 2016, I created White Cloud with the intent that we will provide aerial services for companies that needed inspection data and imagery, media production services, and other aerial technological applications. In 2017, White Cloud aligned with FLIR, a highly specialized company that manufactures thermal imaging sensors and cameras. With this kind of technology attached to our drones, we were able to detect gas leaks and water leaks on high-rise buildings, inspect solar panels that were either broken from hail damage or simply underperforming panels because they were old or just not working properly. We also assisted police departments and sheriff offices in helping them find suspects on the run or help provide search and rescue missions during hurricane season or other natural disaster situations. With so many search and rescue missions, we partnered up with Drone Nerds and HPRC to sell products that were specifically designed to assist police departments, fire departments, sheriff offices, and other agencies needed to have an aerial application that expedites the time and efficiency of searching for humans and even animals. We actually assisted a few local ranchers in locating livestock that had wandered beyond their fences. When we first started this company, our first job was to assist the media production team for the San Antonio Spurs. We were called out to film a few video clips in and around the AT&T Center so the media production team can then produce specific videos that you would then see on the Jumbotron or during commercial breaks if you're watching it on TV. Providing media production services to assist other media companies came to be very lucrative. We were certified, insured, and fully registered with the FAA, which gave us an advantage because that was our ticket to validate our professionalism and our credibility, and most importantly, the legality of flying a drone. The first thing that we always do when we get hired for a job is to verify where we can actually fly. The FAA must authorize specific locations to ensure the safety of all of the aerial vehicles in the air. Drones can be a major problem if they're not regulated properly. Drones are not to be flown above 400 feet, within 5 miles of an airport, or directly over people. However, you can perform these things if you are authorized initially through the FAA. It's what we call getting a waiver. You must submit your flight mission with all of the details, and then they will then decide whether or not you are legally able to fly in that area within those parameters. Drone operators must adhere to all FAA law. A few industries that we are consistently providing services for include commercial real estate, construction and development, marketing and advertising, and assisting other media companies with aerial cinematography. Here are just a few clips of a day in the life of White Cloud Drones.
check our mount, make sure it hasn't moved since the last flight.
Hopefully, this small glimpse of our everyday life working for White Cloud Drones encourages you to expand upon your skill sets and your passion and follow your dreams. Again, my name is Adam Dusenbury, and I'm the CEO and Creative Director for White Cloud Drones. Thanks for hanging out with us today.
Hi, my name is Dago Patlan. I'm a director, editor, producer. I've worked in documentary and feature-length motion pictures. And I've been asked to demonstrate two-point lighting today. Although you might see that I've got 3 fixtures here. I'm going to flip on that 3rd fixture at the end. Now, one of the things I'm going to tell you up front is you don't need fancy lights like this to get things done. The first feature that I worked on, which went to Sundance in 2006, was lit with those clip-on lights that you can get from your local hardware store. So it's not what you have so much as how you use it. I've got a couple of LED panels here, and we're going to demonstrate, as I said, two-point lighting. Now, why do we need lighting at all if there's light in a room? Well, the reality is we use lighting to help create or enhance the 3D world here for the 2D world that people are going to see us. So we want to introduce shadow. We want to be able to control that shadow. We also are using the lights to bring up the illumination so that our cameras can see our subjects better. The cameras don't have the same resolution as the human eye, so we need to kind of help them along, even if you're shooting in something like 4K. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, if you've only got 2 lights, people naturally might want to put the 2 lights in front of their subject. But we don't want to do that here. Although that may work well for photography, for video, And film, we really want to put a light behind our subject and a light in front of our subject. The light in front we refer to as the key light because it's going to be the primary illumination source. It's key to lighting the whole scene. When you're using two lights only, the second light is what we refer to as an edge light because it's going to be used to create an edge around our subject, as well as fill in the side. That's different from three-point lighting when you have a key, a fill, and a dedicated backlight. The backlight would provide the edge. The key light provides the primary illumination, along with the shadows, and the fill light would reduce the shadows to the level that you want for your whatever you're filming. In this case, we're going to be doing a interview type setup with two lights. And so let's go ahead and get things started. If we could bring down the house light some, I'm going to turn on the edge light first. The reason why we do the edge light first is because we want to define our subject's edges first. We want to create that separation of our subject from the background, and that helps enhance the 3D look of our subject on the screen when we're done. Now, the reason why we do the edge light first is because our key light is going to basically be so strong that we're not really going to be able to see its definition once we have that light on. So we start first with the edge light. So I've already placed these lights where I sort of need them. And I'm going to use these barn doors to kind of help define and shape that light. Now, if you're using those clamp-on lights, I would suggest that you make it to your local theatrical store and purchase the black aluminum sheets that you can wrap around those lights to help shape it when you don't have barn doors. You might even be able to use something like cardboard if you don't have any money at all. You could, because if you're using LED bulbs or fluorescent bulbs, they're not going to get hot. So you could, craft some barn doors and tape them to the side of the light if you need to. In this case, these fixtures have barn doors, and so I'm going to use this to shape our light. As you can see here, when I move it, it changes the edge on our subject here. And like I said, I'm using this also as a fill light. So it's providing the fill here. If I put my hand here, you can see where my light is. And it's filling in this side of our subject and just providing some light along their shoulders. If I want to get a little bit more behind, understand that the further you are from the side of your subject, the harder it is going to be to get some of that light to fill the side there. So once we're happy with that, I'm going to take a look at my camera to see what I have. Okay, to me that looks a little bit too strong, so I'm going to dim it. If you don't have dimmable lights, you might vary the distance of the light from your subject, or you might try to purchase some diffusion. Like I said, particularly if you're working with fluorescent bulbs, the diffusion sheets are relatively inexpensive at your theatrical store, and you can use it to soften the light without catching fire. Now, if you're using regular photography bulbs, which is a direction a lot of people go, those do get hot, and you can't necessarily diffuse it as easily. The other thing you have to look out for is some fluorescent bulbs are going to pulse when it's recorded on video. So it's a good idea to when you first get your fixtures, that you turn them on and take a look at them through your camera. You want to make sure that they're not vibrating or pulsing or creating waves. That has to do with the quality of the bulb and the technology inside the bulb. And LED, if you're going to go with cheap LEDs, you're going to have to purchase a minus green filter for it, because inexpensive LEDs are not properly balanced for cameras and can create an overall green hue to what you're doing. So it's a magenta, or also known as minus green. It's particularly helpful for lower end LED lighting. All right, so let's go ahead and reduce. We're lucky in that this fixture does have a dimmer, so I can bring it down to a nice level. And I'm also dealing with a subject whose skin tones are lighter than than mine, for example, so I might need more light for me. So your subject, your lighting is, there's no simple solid formula for the amount of light because skin tones reflect lights differently. So if you're interviewing somebody like me, you might need to up the light. She's a little more pale, so her skin is reflecting light much faster, much brighter. So I'm going to bring my light down just a little bit. But I do have to strike a balance between wanting to get her illuminated properly, but still having enough light on the shoulder to make sure that she has that definition and separation from the space behind her. And you can see where that light is. That's another thing you might want to do. One of the things that I do a lot is you'll see me make a fist and look near my subject, because I can use my fist to simulate a face if I don't have my subject here yet. And I can see where the light is and where the shadows begin and determine whether that is kind of what I'm going for. Since she's here, it's a lot easier for me to see the subject. All right, now that this light is in its place, I'm going to go ahead and kick over my key light, which is the primary illumination source. This is going to create the shadows, which is what makes our subject look more 3D in a 2D world. My key light is usually, we also want to make sure that when we do have our lighting, that we're not shooting our light directly in the face of our subject. We might be tempted to use that one light to fill everything, but remember, we're trying to create shadow, we're trying to create depth. And the way we do that is with the angle of the light. So my fixture is going to be about 45 degrees off axis to our subject. Now, if you could remove your mask briefly, I want to take a look at what your face looks like with this light on. I'm maintaining my social distance. But you can already see, if you'll look right here, please, you'll see on the right side of her face that we've created some shadow with her nose. And we want that. We don't want to blast our subject and completely flatten them out. Okay? We want that shadow. And if we're trying to do something even more dramatic, we might even have less of an edge light, so we have more illumination here and less here. If we're doing something that maybe it's a darker subject, or you're trying to emphasize a particular mood or vibe of the interview, if it's a serious interview, we're talking about something very dramatic or serious, we can play with that edge light, and we can create more harsher keys, and we can that'll change the mood or the vibe of what we're filming. And that's another thing that I want to mention, that when you are conducting an interview and you're a one-person band, in other words, you're your gaffer, you're your camera operator, you're the producer and director, it's important that you not stay behind the camera during the interview process. You need to make eye contact with your subject. So having a monitor like this pointed in the direction that you're going to be seated will help make the interview more comfortable, and you'll probably get a better response out of your subject. So if I was to actually conduct this interview right now, I'd be sitting here asking her questions. I want to see her nodding at her responses, and that'll help her feel more comfortable, because a lot of times you're interviewing folks that have not been in front of a camera before. So they get really, really, really nervous or stressed out. You want to try to keep them as comfortable as possible. Eye contact is definitely one of the things that's going to help you with that. All right, so we've got our key light here. It's, like I said, is providing our primary illumination. And we can see without it what we have and what we have with it. Now, if I had the luxury of having two cameras, I might have another camera off on this side here, framed for one particular framing, and this one framed for another. That way, I have something to cut to. But if I don't have that option, I generally would prefer to shoot just a little bit wider, and I'll cheat it in the edit suite. Maybe I'll do a slow digital zoom in post-production to try to emphasize certain things. But really, what you should be doing is, in between your questions, you should be varying your framing during the interview. One shot is a medium, one shot is a wide. Now, for this particular camera and setup, I'm using just a regular photography lens, and I'm using what we call a prime lens. So if I had to conduct an interview with this, it'd be difficult, because I'd have to move the camera forward and back when I'm interviewing my subject. So when you're doing an interview setup like this, you really need to be using a camera that you can vary the framing on with a zoom lens. Or you might have to change out your lenses, which can slow down the process of the interview. So it looks like she's looking pretty good to me right now. If I want less shadow, I could bring the light around here, and we'll notice that the shadow almost completely disappears. So it depends on what kind of mood I'm trying to create. If I bring the light over here, we have more shadow. If I bring the light closer, it changes the direction of the shadow. So it really depends on what kind of look you're trying to create for your production. I think I want a little more shadow there. So first thing I'm going to do, if I want to create more shadow, but I'm happy with my keys, I'm going to bring down my edge light. And if I really want to see the difference, I can turn my light on and off, and I can see what light is contributing to what shadow. And making sure that that's how you can make sure that you're achieving the look that you want. I'll be providing George with some links to some of the fixtures and things that I've been using here, in hopes that it's something that you could afford to get when you first get started. Like I said, I started out with clamp lights, but there are definitely a lot of opportunities to pick up gear like this when it's on sale. And that's how I got my stuff. And you always start with the most inexpensive stuff first. You don't want to fall in love with all the technology and all the latest gadgets. You can end up spending yourself into debt. So only get what you need and just improve with what you have. So right now we've got 2 lights. George wanted me to demonstrate the third light, what it would look like if I did a 3-point lighting. And so that's what this fixture is here is for. Now, one of the things I did mention before is that when you're in a room and you decide where your subject is going to sit, there are a couple things you need to consider, because you might have windows in the room. So even though you only have 2 lights, you can simulate 3-point lighting by using some of the natural illumination in the room. If I had a window over here, I might place my subject near the window, and that becomes my fill light. That way I can have a light dedicated to being the backlight and the key light. And all of a sudden, even though I have 2 fixtures, I could really pull off that 3-point lighting look. The only thing you have to worry about is the color temperatures. When you're dealing with windows, you're dealing with what we call blue light. The lighting produced by the sun is in the 5600 degree Kelvin scale. That puts you in the blue spectrum. But when you're dealing with old school bulbs, like what you have like maybe in your house, you have what they call the warm look, or the 3200 degree Kelvin scale, which is more in the red section or the orange section. And so right now, the fixtures I decided to choose were warm in the 3200 degree scale. And the reason why I chose that is because cool lights, blue lights, again, provide the mood. They actually can color when you light the subject using the cool lights. It looks different than when you do it with tungsten, even though you've white balanced. If it's a friendly interview, if she's talking about something friendly or fun, then I'll dial in a warm light. If I'm doing something more stoic or more serious, I might use blue lighting or cool lights. It really depends on my vibe and what I'm trying to create with the interview. Remember, you're not just illuminating. You are painting with light. You're using light to paint in shadows that don't exist in the normal world. And we do that, again, to help enhance that cinematic mood. So let's turn on this third light. There it is. All right. So now you'll notice that this third light is making her look much smoother. Less shadows, but it really does fill in her face well. Having 3 lights is definitely more beneficial. But maybe I don't have 3 lights. Like I said, when I first started, the first professional light kit I bought really did only come with 2 lights. So if I was in a room and maybe there was a window here, this would maybe be the look you'd end up with the same setup. Now, like I said, the proper backlight would have been behind her, So if I've got a window and I've got a way to hide that light, that'd be ideal. I could put the light directly behind her and create a wonderful silhouette all around on both shoulders and all around her hair. Some people call it a hair light. But the reality is when you're conducting interviews and you're doing stuff like this, you're not in a place where you have a bunch of things that you can use to hide lights. And unless you have a lot more expensive gear, you won't have lights to suspend above your subject. Before your interview, you should be communicating with your subject about clothing. I mentioned before that if they have logos or things like that, that makes it a little more difficult in the edit suite in case you need to flip the direction of your subject as in post. Post meaning when you're in the editing phase. There are other things you need to worry about as well. One of the things you need to communicate to your subject is that please make sure you're wearing solid colors, or if you're going to wear a pattern, make sure that that the patterns are large. The problem is as you shrink down those patterns, it starts to create what we call moire. What that is, and you've probably seen this on TV, when somebody's wearing something with very fine stripes or patterns, the images tend to jitter. That's because sometimes those patterns fall between the two pixels or the two fields of the image. And so that image or that pattern is bouncing back and forth between the image, the two fields in the frame, or it's just crawling just because of the resolution of the television that it's being watched on. So having solid colors is generally better. You want to avoid really, really bright colors like red. You generally want to tell your subjects to wear browns, blues, grays work really well. The houndstooth could possibly create a problem for a wide shot, because as that shot gets wider, that houndstooth starts to lose its definition and could vibrate at the right framing, although maybe the wrong framing. But the color patterns she's chosen are great. The blues are fantastic, and the browns. So you want to make sure that you kind of clear all those things with your subject before they show up. Now, there are some obviously exceptions to the rule. If you have a subject that's maybe talking about something fun or something they're passionate about, you might want to encourage them to wear warmer colors, maybe even a red. The problem with red is it tends to what we call crawl on the screen. So you just need to be careful when you're asking them to wear colors outside of the blues, grays, and browns, because it can create problems in the edit. One of the things I failed to mention earlier is that I have been a film teacher for high school students for over 6 years. In between working on feature-length motion pictures and documentaries with PBS, I did take some time out, a total of 6 years teaching people like you. The reason why I did that is because I wanted to make sure that I could take the knowledge that I have learned over the years and pass it on to filmmakers like you. Video has become more and more important to our daily lives, and you as youths are doing it more and more than I ever did, and definitely more than my parents ever did. So this is really an opportunity for me to share this knowledge with you. So you don't have to necessarily go through all the growing pains that I did learning how to become a better filmmaker. Okay, well, I want to thank you for watching my 2-point/3-point lighting lesson. If you have any questions, please feel free to email George and he can relay them to me. Thank you so much.
You know, I could watch these workshops over and over and still find something fresh and new and something to learn. A big thanks to Adam and to Dagoberto for excellent presentations. At this moment, I'd like to thank the founders of the Josiah Festival, Marcus and Nancy Nurendorf, and I'd like to give a special shout out to Film SA. That's the San Antonio's film department, who've been helpful with Josiah since the very beginning in 2006. I also want to extend our gratitude to the Texas Commission on the Arts and to the Department of Arts and Culture of San Antonio. A special thanks to our Artistic Director, Catherine Cisneros, our Technical Manager for the Josiah Festival and Project Manager, Jonathan Anderson, Homer Villarreal, our Assistant Technical floor manager, our research and script specialist, Marisol Cortez, and our marketing social media manager, Gina Buffalo. I want to extend a big thank you to all of the faculty members and parents who have gone online and made this show available to you. So we'll see you next year, and in a few weeks you'll be watching the actual 60 films we've chosen for the festival. Thank you very much. On behalf of Urban 15, later.